to OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. We got Craig Berube coming up here in a few moments. His take on the Leaf win last night. Auston Matthews looking really good. Max Domi looking good last night. A lot of different storylines around the NHL. We'll get back into the Shohei Ohtani bombshell story about his interpreter and the accusations that he effectively stole money from him. Yet days earlier, he had said on the record that Ohtani actually was the one helping him out of gambling debts. Where baseball goes with this story, Dodgers-Padres wrapped up their 2-game series in Seoul, South Korea, and it was a crazy game today. The Padres won, but there were like 27 runs scored or something crazy like that. So I guess the Dodgers come back 1-1. Ohtani's officially established there, but when he arrives back in L.A., man, TMZ will be waiting for him.
Oh my
like that's the crazy
God.
thing is TMZ's on the story.
Yes.
Right? Forget the L.A. Times.
And you can't judge a book by its cover. The interpreter, as we were talking about it at our lunch today, he doesn't look like a gambler. He looks like he plays video games all night long. He just does. I don't know. And you never know what people get up to, but he doesn't look like a gambler. I don't know.
Yeah, and the thing is, Ohtani is so mysterious. We know nothing about him.
No, he plays with his dog when he gets home. That's all we know.
That's it. Like, we don't know what his story's all about. His free agency was cloaked in mystery, and yet the first thing we really hear about this guy's personal life is that his interpreter is $4.5 million in the hole with a bookie on the side. It's just a crazy
Yeah, like what's the interpreter's
reveal.
salary? Like what's his net worth? Like most interpreters, I don't know. Like you said, bookies kind of have an idea what people are floating around, and to get 4.5 in the hole when you're not even close to that. But I don't know what kind of money maybe his family's. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been reported, maybe between $300,000 and $500,000. That's a lot of money, but again, the Dodgers, I guess, are technically employing him. And, Ohtani obviously wants him, and I'm sure it was a package deal. Like, I'm coming, and so is my guy. This is, like, by all accounts, a very close friend, maybe his best friend. And yet, you got a scenario here where this is broken out. There's no putting the cat back in the bag. Like, they were protecting his locker room today in the clubhouse. They got him out of there. He's on a flight back to L.A., but once he gets home, there's only so far you can run. There's only so long you can go before you have to address this, and Ohtani will undoubtedly have to do that. Question is, who will be the interpreter that does it for him this time? Will a lawyer be present? And what does Major League Baseball do from here? Just a wild debut as a Dodger. Like, there's no other way around it. Just a wild, wild debut as a Dodger. And, again, with his interpreter, the guy's 39 years old. He's been in the States since, I believe, the early 90s. Like, he's an American. He's been there for a long time. And the reason I bring that up is I read a story that indicated maybe he was confused by the difference between a bookie and legalized gambling, and there's just no way that's possible.
No.
Like you're not an idiot. You're 39 and you've been in the States for 30 years. You can't play dumb. There's just no way.
You know what, though, guys? Like, you said it. Like a bookie, you know why the bookie's giving him 4.5 as far as arm's length? Because he knows he's got Ohtani behind him as far as the money. So that's what this guy's probably using, going, yes, I'm his interpreter. He's my best friend. He's either making the bets for him or that's his best friend, and he's good for it. So don't worry about it. So to me, that's what it reeks of. It reeks of, whoever's behind the bets, the bookie is comfortable giving them $4 million in credit, knowing that it'll be covered by Ohtani's bank account, basically.
Yeah, and it's got to be wild because this was a full investigation, obviously, by law enforcement. And when they saw, like, Shohei Ohtani's bank statement, that must have been
shocking.
You talk about, like, bells going off in the department. Like, how many of the guys went home and said, you're not going to believe what we stumbled across today. Ohtani's name is on this. It's his bank account. And as of now, the reports are indicating MLB is not going to investigate. And that's not going to fly either because, the conspiracies are flying there where it's like, because it's your number one guy, you don't want to penalize him. Well, and where does the Players Association come in? It's way too premature to know exactly what this is going to mean for his legacy, his career. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's nothing. And again, no one got injured here or anything like that. So
No,
it's not.
and maybe he did get screwed over in some capacity.
Exactly.
Nobody knows. And that's why Rob Manfred just needs to answer some questions and kind of simplify things so people don't get out of hand in their projections of what happened here.
Right. Exactly. And if you take it at face value, okay, in lockstep with the Dodgers and everyone else, it was the interpreter. This is what happened. Ohtani got screwed. Okay. But to your point, at least a statement saying we're aware of it. We're going to let the process play out. We are going to keep people up to date on what happens here, and an understanding that the books could open at some point. So more on that with Bill Shaken in about an hour of the LA Times. The Leafs are coming off a win last night, a necessary win. They didn't love the way they played the night before in Philly. And Matthews with 5 points last night. Beautiful setup on the Bertuzzi goal. He had 2 goals himself. He hit a post. I guess he's hit 16 posts this year. And I don't believe he has an empty net goal. Unless that changed recently, I don't believe he's got any empty net goals. He's hit 16 posts, and he's got 57 goals. And, I said last night on SportsCenter with Jay that, like, Ovechkin, his greatest goal-scoring season was 65 goals. His second greatest was 56, and Matthews passed that last night. And no modern player has had 60 goals in 2 different seasons. That hasn't happened, I don't think, since like Lemieux and Hull and, Gretzky and the boys back in the 80s and 90s. And I think unless something drastic happens here or an injury pops up, Matthews is going to surpass 60, which is a pretty incredible feat. And to chat about all that, we're joined now by former NHLer, former Leaf, former NHL head coach, now an analyst. Here's Craig Berube joining us back on the Maple Toyota hotline. How you doing, Craig?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm not an analysis.
Oh, okay.
Part-time.
All right, just part-time. Just part-time. I'll make sure. Let me rephrase that. We'll cut that out of the podcast.
Every time I turn around, he's on TV. What are you talking about, Craig? You're on TV more than us now.
Couple times a month, boys. That's it.
Okay. Well, anyway, we appreciate you doing this, as always. And, we were obviously buzzing about Matthews and the game he had last night. And, you went up against him a lot as a coach. And obviously with Ovechkin as well, other great goal scorers. Like, how do you game plan, if at all, against a guy that's just a freak of nature and a goal-scoring machine?
Well, it's difficult. They're going to get their looks, right, in the game. And, you got to just try to, defend as best you can against them. I mean, like, they're elite players that do elite things. Just Matthews. He's got such an elite shot, and he's got size and, great skater. It's tough not to give him opportunities. You're going to get opportunities. You just got to try to limit them the best you can. I mean, you could talk all you want, but the bottom line is, like, the 5 guys out there, when you're out there against a guy like Matthews, you got to know that he's out there, first of all, and you got to do a good job of, taking time and space away from him, deny him the puck, make sure somebody's on him. And the biggest thing for me is, like, make them play in their own end as much as possible, and not be sloppy with the puck and, manage it properly and make them defend as much as you can. That's the bottom line. That's what you got to do. But they're still going to get their looks. They're great players.
Chief, how do you handle scratches in the big leagues? I mean, it's been talked about a lot in the last 48 hours or so with Couturier in Philly and Brody in Toronto. Yeah. Like, how do you manage that, delivering the message, pulling the trigger on the decision, and then afterwards, if the team wins, if the team loses, whether the player goes back, like, how much thought has to go into all that and how many different factors?
Yeah, and there's a lot. It depends on the player for sure. I think, a lot of times there's players that need a reset and to, sit out a game or two and, look at things and work on things in practice, take a little time. That's definitely part of the game, I think, for guys. And you got to use that. You got to talk to them about just, hey, taking a reset here. You're not playing very well. Things aren't going well for you. We tried a number of different things. It's not getting better, so this is what we're going to do, and this is what's best for you and best for the team right now. And they're not going to be happy about it. They shouldn't be happy about it. They want to play. If they are happy about it, you probably want to move on from this player. And that's just the bottom line. I think you just straightforward and truthful with them. If the team wins, then you make a decision as a coaching staff. Your management will be involved, and you talk about things. Again, you got to look at what's best for the team. Is one game enough? Maybe sit them on another game. So I think every player is different, and you got to handle it differently with every player.
Craig, when talking about healthy scratching, you do it internally, but then also we've noticed, and we're pointing to John Tortorella. We're noticing it's become a big story, obviously because of Couturier, because of him being a captain, but then Torts being a little bit defiant with the media. Like, how do you balance that act as far as keeping things behind closed doors, but also maybe letting the fan base and the media into a little bit of your thought process?
Yeah, for sure. I think you got to answer you're going to have to answer the questions to the media, and obviously the fans want to know what's going on. I think, that's important to a certain extent. I think every coach handles it differently. I'm not going to tell John Tortorella how to handle it. He handles it his own way. But the most important thing is that the player understands what's going on and the team understands what's going on. Those conversations are all, indoors. The media and the fans do not need to know, about those conversations. I think you just got to be, truthful with the media and the fans about why he's not playing tonight. His play hasn't been good. We're going to take him out for a game or two, and he's going to work on things, and we'll get him back in there, whenever he gets back in there, and that's basically it.
We're chatting with Craig Berube. So the Leafs are in a bit of a unique position because it's basically a foregone conclusion they're going to be the third seed in their division. So they're going to go to the playoffs. They don't know who they're going to play. It's either Boston or Florida, but they're going to start on the road.
Yeah.
They got a pretty big buffer between them and Tampa, Detroit, etc. So I'm curious, how you might handle a situation like that where Sheldon is well aware of what his team is by now, who they are, where they're going. How do you kind of marry, all right, let's start focusing on the playoffs, let's make sure we're healthy and we got everything in order, but at the same time continue to take care of business and make sure you're peaking at the right time and remaining competitive during the regular season?
Yeah, for sure. I think you got to, manage your roster the best you can with, injuries and rest and things like that, but also you want to keep winning, you want to keep playing good hockey. And you want to, be playing your best hockey going into playoffs, in my opinion. So I would keep pushing as a coach. I think there's obviously teams, like all teams want to work on things and get better at things going into playoffs. So you want to focus on those things, but just take it game to game. The rest, from now till playoffs start, just focus on each game and playing good hockey. And, maybe you're tinkering with your lineup a little bit with lineup changes and maybe some lines, moving some lines around and things like that. So that's all part of it. But I think you still just got to focus on the next game and trying to win that game.
So we're pretty certain 4 Canadian teams are going to make it at this point. Calgary's starting to fade here. They basically faded. Ottawa's out. Montreal's out. So it's going to be Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver, all 4 good teams. Winnipeg's rocking right now. Edmonton's rocking. Vancouver has been leading the league basically all year. And I think Toronto's playing their best hockey, and they're even dealing with some injuries. You're a Canadian. You're aware of the history. It's been 30 years. But how do you feel about that 4-pack of teams? You got 25% of the playoff teams are Canadian teams. How are we feeling about our chances this year, Craig?
Well, you got some. Well, in my opinion, all 4 teams are real good teams that can do something in the playoffs. So it's great to see. I'm a Canadian, obviously, and it's been a long time since we've seen a Stanley Cup champ in Canada. But I think they really have a good opportunity this year. Like you said, Vancouver's been playing extremely well and consistent throughout the season. They're a solid hockey team. Their goaltender's out right now, but he'll be back. Edmonton, obviously, they've been playing well for quite some time now. So bad start, but I like their pickups in the playoffs. For the playoffs, Henrique and a couple other guys. They picked up some depth guys. I think Henrique really gives them that third line center that they needed. So that was a good pickup, and that's a dangerous team. Obviously, they've been playing well for quite some time. Winnipeg's been very consistent all year. Real good team, and like you said, Toronto's playing some real good hockey right now. This Toronto team can score goals. If they defend well enough in the playoffs, they're a lethal team up front with the scoring ability.
Yeah, it always comes back to, defense and goaltending. And if you can recall your run in 19, Binnington obviously was unbelievable, and you guys had a really good defense core too. But, how much of it, I guess, how do you break down what's necessary, as a guy that's won a cup, that's been behind the bench, that saw it all come together? Can you simplify it to you need just goaltending more than that? Like, where do you stand on that?
Well, you need everything, but you need everybody going. I think you need 4 lines and 6D. I'll go back to Vegas last year. If you look at White Cloud and Hag 5-6 on their defense core, they're outstanding. And they're out there against top lines. They defended extremely well. They're hard to play against. So I believe you need everybody in the playoffs. There's going to be times where, your fourth line is going to come through and score big goals. I know when we won our fourth line, Sundqvist, Barbashev, and Steen, they scored a handful of goals throughout playoffs. They're one of our best lines in the playoffs. But you need everybody going. And in my opinion, going into the playoffs, I want to be playing real good 5-on-5 defense, and my penalty killing I want at a top level going into the playoffs.
Craig, there's been a little uptick of fighting in the league recently. The kid in New York, Rempe, even last night, L.A. and Minnesota Middleton, and
big fights.
Big scraps. Are you seeing a little bit of a cycle through, or does this just happen to be just kind of a couple outliers right now for some scrapping?
Well, I know the Rempe kid got called up for the minors, and he's trying to prove himself up here, and I think he's done a real good job. Other than a couple of the hits are a little bit high, he got punished for it, obviously. But I think he's trying to make a name for himself. But I think too, right now coming down this time of year, games are way more intense. The physicality is up in the games, and that's going to cause for a little bit more. Maybe some, fights and things like that go on. I know Minnie's battling hard to try to get in the playoffs, it's a little more intense right now. So I think some things get stirred up and get going.
Yeah, they've been getting stirred up and they've been getting going for a while here, man. And I can't imagine that's going to slow down between now and the playoffs. We still got a month to go, and we're seeing a lot of tilts.
You look, and you look at how tight it is, right? Teams, 4 points out of the playoff spot, 2 points are trying to battle. The East has got a real tight battle going in the wild cards, and Philly's in that third spot in the Metro, but they're only like maybe 4 points up on the Islanders or something like that. So it's tight, it's competitive right now, and it's great. I think it's great. It's great that it comes down to the wire like this. Hockey's intense right now, and a lot of good games.
Absolutely. A bunch of games on the docket tonight. Enjoy those, Craig. We always appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Take care, guys.
You got it. There's Craig Berube, former Leaf and NHL head coach, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. You're seeing, without question, the intensity is rising throughout the league. And when you have teams that are battling for position, like last night, LA and Minnesota are fighting for position, literally and figuratively, you're going to see that. And also when you see teams that are kind of struggling, like I think Philly was looking for a response. And I think that's why Delorier was looking at Reeves saying, I need to prove I'm here to go, so let's have a go. And Reeves was willing to accept that.
Especially when the coach is scratching the captain and it puts everybody on radar where it's like, I don't want to be next.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what Tortorella's thinking. I'm going to push that button again tonight. and hope you get a similar response. And, there obviously are teams that are not in the same position, that are not necessarily, playing for anything. But there are a lot that are. And even if you're a lock to make it, if you're Vancouver or Florida or Boston or the Rangers, that doesn't mean the intensity is going to drop, because of what Craig just said. You're trying to keep ramping up. Like, there's a lot of coaches that feel like you got to push down now as opposed to pulling back. You got to actually get bigger and better and more intense, and you got to peak in a month.
Yeah, and you're playing for seeding too, as we just talked about. Boston and Florida are, they're trying to figure out where they're going to end up. These teams are trying to win the President's Trophy. They're trying to get home ice. They're trying to do all of these things, and it's happening on both sides. Yeah, that LA Minnesota game, like, that got a bit greasy last night. I think it's Eglin. He's a big defenseman there. Him and Middleton. That was the guy with the mustache.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, that was a good fight.
There were some tilts, and LA just beat them up too. Like, they were up 4 or 5-0 pretty quick. I mean,
yeah.
And you're gonna get a response, and that's what happened. Yeah. We'll see what comes of it tonight. Again, there's a bunch of games every single night. There's going to be something on the line, and it's no different tonight. Darren Drago will join us in about an hour. Bill Shakin of the LA Times is coming up. Tell you what Mark Shapiro had to say earlier today about why, when they went off Ohtani, they didn't decide to do much. It's one particular.
I gotta hear this, man.
It's one particular quote that's going kind of viral. I saw Rob Longley tweeted it out, among others. We'll tell you about that, what else Schneider had to say about them making cuts and basically establishing their 26-man roster, as we're a week away from opening day. So we'll get into that and more still to come. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. I got you. All right, every day we make an announcement, the Maple Leaf Player of the Day. We announce a current or former Maple Leaf player, and by the end of the week, there's a 5-pack. If you call in and name all 5, you're going to see a future Leaf game this week. Tickets to see the Maple Leafs play New Jersey March 26th. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro-Canada. Today's Player of the Day is Alex McGillney. And Matthews is hoping to get to 70. That cat got to 76 one year, which is wild because Solani tied him. And that was like
him and Patty LaFontaine were outrageous that year.
Right. That would have been, 92, 93, I think, in Buff. And, Buffalo and Winnipeg. Timu and McGillney. And it was like Sosa and McGuire, just back and forth. Like, they're scoring every single night. Bank on it. It's happening.
It's weird because if you look at McGillney, he got 76 and then he got 55 once again. But after that, 43, like, the numbers were not as high.
That guy
weird.
gets
he was
people
a hell
buzzing
of a player.
when the Hall. Yeah, his name gets buzzing. We talk about Cujo a lot, but the Hall of Fame, whenever it comes up, it's like there is a McGillney crew that are like, "Are you serious, man?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has a big following where they're like, why not him?
Yeah. Well, because he came over with Fedorov and Bure, right? And the two of them are in, obviously. And I think in terms of an NHL career, international career likely too, he would be behind those two. But you score 76, you have 55 another year. He won at least one cup in New Jersey.
1,000 points, 1,032 points in 990 games. Like,
that sounds Hall of Fame to me, man. Like, that's an international career.
I know.
Like, I don't know how
it's just confusing. It's just like other guys get in, and then you look at that guy and other guys. It's just like, I don't know.
It's a hall with some plaques in there. I can't get away from that one.
No,
that one will hang around me for a long. That's my interpreter. That's my interpreter right there. And you want to be my interpreter? That's the clip. It's a hall with some plaques in there. It's a hall with some plaques in there. Such an arrogant comment. A lot of context. There's depth to it. I always have to qualify that. It wasn't. I love the hall. Love the hall. Love the people down at the hall. It's a great place. I've been to Cooperstown. I've been in the mall. Great places. But I think McGillney should be in there. I do. And,
I do too.
He was such a great player. Such a great player. You see your boy Robert McIntyre at the Valspar. I guess he's got his caddy.
Dude.
With, Europe 16.5, USA 11.5 from the Ryder Cup score, like on his bib.
That's amateur hour. That is amateur hour, and he's a young kid, and he's so fired up and horny about the Ryder Cup, which he should be. But you're trying to play in the U.S. Tour a little bit more. It's like, why are you doing that? Like, a guy like Spieth would just look at it and say, oh, great. It's like VJ. One year at the President's Cup, he got his caddy, and logoed on the back of his caddy, he was having an individual match with Tiger, and he put Tiger who? ? On the hat, and it's like, what are you doing? It's just like, why would he do that? You like it, Hayes?
I like Robert McIntyre personally.
Dude, I know you do. Bobby Mack, he almost won the Scottish Open. If Rory McIlroy didn't go hero, he would have won the Scottish Open. But why would he do that?
I don't know. And the reality is, does he have any future with the Ryder Cup team? It seems far-fetched, like it may be a one-off. Why at the Valspar? I don't know why it had to be at the Valspar, but Thomas is there, Spieth is there. There's a number of Americans that were on the team. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. I'm a little bit surprised the PGA Tour even allows it.
Well, I think the caddies had the option to put like the player's Twitter handle or nickname on the back of their bib.
I see.
And that's what he decided to put. And it's like,
you're asking for trouble, man. I will say that. Like you're in the U.S. I don't know how many people care that much about the Ryder Cup. Again, it's at the Valspar.
Yeah, and it's his first year kind of coming over here and playing these events. He's trying to get status. I don't know what he's trying to accomplish golf-wise. I don't know the in-depth analysis of what he wants to do on the American soil as far as golf, but it's like that's just going to get people chirping, and you're going to be the guy they want to see miss the putt. And I don't know. I bet you if Rory was in the field or something, they would be like, that was funny day one, buddy, but just take it off.
Yeah, and it can't be about the player impact program because Bob McIntyre's got no chance.
No.
Like him going viral here is not going to get him money.
Dude, none of them
at the end of the year.
Those top 10 guys in the world, like the Rorys and Tiger Woods is going to win the PIP, and he's not even going to
he'll be 75 years old. And he's still going to be collecting money.
It's a $15 to $20 million gift to Tiger Woods every year, and Rory finishes second.
Yeah.
That's what it's turned into. It's just a gift for those guys for not playing on Live.
Well, remember the first year it was reported that Phil had won it, that Mickelson won it, and then
he finished second.
And then it came out that Tiger had. And I wonder, like, was that Live? Like, people sniffed it out. They're like, we can't allow this guy to win it. Like, we can't hand him that type of check. This guy's going to bolt for $200 million and go hang out with Greg Norman. Because at that point, rumors had started buzzing that this rival tour was coming and Mickelson was going to be the face of it. And that's when the book was coming out and all the allegations of all the gambling and everything that was falling apart for Phil. But, Robert McIntyre, I hear what you're saying. You're putting a bit of a target on your back. It's golf. I mean, what are guys going to do, yell at you? I don't really know what can possibly happen out of it. But you don't really see villains in golf either. Maybe he's trying something different here. I'm not sure it will land. But anyway, Robert McIntyre, I think it's 2 under through 10. That's a different thing. If he performs, like you miss the cut and shoot, 75, 77, then it's like, thanks, Bob. Like, cool, like funny stuff. But you actually are in contention. That's a bit of a different story. So a lot of news coming out of Dunedin today. Mark Shapiro was just round-tabling with the press. Generally, the newspaper round-tabling with the press.
This is more than round-tabling. Yeah. This is the State of the Union type of comment.
It generally is, yeah. And I guess, not that it matters to anyone, but the cost of the renovation, he said, is going to be just under $400 million once everything is said and done. And that's a massive investment. Like $400 million is a lot of money. And it's not Shapiro's money. It's obviously Rogers' money. But this is a big undertaking. He's putting his reputation on the line for ownership, them trying to make it work. It worked beautifully what we saw last year. I assume it'll look good this year. But he was also asked about Ohtani when Ohtani fell through. And Rob Longley tweeting this out of the Sun. He said, speaking at his annual meeting with the Toronto Beat Media, Shapiro said after Ohtani fell through, quote, "We doubled down on our belief of our own players," end quote.
That is the most nonsensical comment you could ever,
it's tough.
I don't even know what the hell that means. It's like, That basically is in a roundabout way saying we kind of didn't really have a plan B after Ohtani.
Right.
And that's how you fancy that comment up, where you're like, we doubled down in belief there will be growth within our own players. That's what that is.
It's the trade deadline comes and goes. You don't make a move, and you say, "Oh, it wasn't because we didn't want to make a move. It was because, or we couldn't make a move. It was we didn't want to because we love our guys." Right? It was actually a vote of confidence, us not trying to improve our team, and that's exactly what this is. It like again, I want to give them the credit, the benefit of the doubt, because we don't have access to the audio, and if we can get it, we'll play it. We're reading it, off Twitter, but it reads poorly. It reads as if we got Ohtani, then obviously we would have sold it as we needed help and we were willing to spend $700 million to get it. But since we didn't, then all of a sudden we don't need help. And for a team that barely made the playoffs, obviously had issues hitting last year, obviously has got the injury bug early in the year. We haven't even got to opening day. That's still a week away. They're really putting something on the line here, this idea that internal improvement is what is going to make it or break it, right? Like I don't think Shapiro's job is at stake at any point soon because of what he just said about they just pumped $400 million into the Renault. That's his baby. That's his job. He's at the top. Obviously, the owners really love Mark, and they've had a successful team the last few years. They were a playoff team last year. But if that's your pitch, we just believe in our own players. If that doesn't work, there's no dancing around it. Like, there's no explanation. We didn't do anything. We were just kind of hoping everyone would click more and perform better. And if they don't, all right. Like, that's a quote that probably hangs over Shapiro and company for the next
growth
6.5 months.
It's not growth either. It's bounce backs. Like, Vladdy needs a bounce back season. There's no growth involved there. It's like, you weren't as good as you could have been last year. You were not at a caliber. You were an MVP caliber a few seasons back. You weren't even close last year. You need a bounce back. Bo Bichette, bounce back. Alek Manoah needs a massive bounce back, not growth. Like, massive bounce back. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
George
just find
Springer's
it
not
weird.
growing. Exactly. He
needs a bounce back too.
Big time.
But, to me, it's a fingers crossed comment. It's like, hey, you know what? We lost out on Ohtani, but fingers crossed that everybody, growth internally, like Vladdy's going to deliver. Like, that's, to me, it's hope and wish. It's not, we know exactly what we're doing.
Right. And doubling down on our belief. So you weren't doubling down when you were trying to get Ohtani, but then after you got Ohtani, you were forced to double down. Like, it's almost like a desperate, like, screw it, I'm all in. Forget it. I've gone this far. We just saw the turn card. I might be in trouble here, but I've gone this far. I'm pot committed. It almost reads that way. Like, we doubled down on our belief of our own players after we were told thanks, but no thanks by Ohtani. And even after Ohtani went relatively early in the offseason, it took a little while, but he signed a long time ago, and there were still a lot of really good players available. Big names, and there's still some guys who are available, and the Jays are choosing not to go down that path. And I don't know if it was brought up to Shapiro today, but like Blake Snell is still out there. Like Montgomery, there are guys who are out there. If Gausman is hurt, if Manoah is not available, like, do you have the money to go possibly attract a really good arm who's still available? And all you got to do is pay him.
Yeah, well, Blake Snell signed with the Giants for 2 years at
$32
million.
There you go. He just did that. You're right. But there are other arms that are still out there that you could –
right.
And you could have got on Snell a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
But, Hayes, I want to ask you this part about the comment. If afterwards we're now doubling down on our internal growth, what did that mean before that when you were in on Ohtani? That's what I don't really understand. Like,
well, exactly.
Where were your heads at when you were all in on him? Did that mean you needed him because you didn't believe in? I just don't know. I find it confusing.
Yeah, I think basically what Mark's saying is, from ownership down, they did everything they could to get Ohtani because Ohtani represented something completely different and larger than life. And once that didn't happen, the budget wasn't there, the options weren't there, and
well, how can the budget not be there? How can they allot them $650 million, but after that it just fizzles down the drain?
Because he is a different beast in terms
It
of
was a one-shot
marketability.
deal where it's like
Basically.
you can go after this, and after that, don't even come knocking on my door.
That's what it reads like,
think
right? And
so.
I'm sure they're not alone. I would guess, Ohtani just got $700 million. We've never seen anything like that, and obviously it doesn't add up, the idea that $700 million is available for that guy, but you don't have money to go and get other guys. Yet, prior to the last 24 hours, there was no one more marketable than Ohtani. No one with a cleaner slate in terms of who he is, what he does, how he performs, hitting, pitching, everything. He's an international icon. He was likely going to be the face of the business plan, for the Blue Jays, but I would assume, the whole communications company was just going to become Ohtani's, oyster effectively in terms of how he was going to be promoted. So I think it was way bigger than baseball. I think that's apparent now. It's very clear. And once Ohtani was no longer available, then it became just about baseball and nuts and bolts. And it was like, all right, you got Vladdy, you got Bo, you got Springer, you got Jansen, you got Kirk. Yeah, go get Turner if you want, Vogelback if you want. But this is what we got, and this has got to work. And, that's on Shapiro, Atkins, and Schneider and company to figure that out. And that's, getting back to where we're at with Manoah, where, again, it was announced, earlier this afternoon, Schneider letting the media know that Bowden Francis has been told he's made the team and he's a part of the rotation. It's not a surprise at all because Manoah's not even pitching live games. But he's out. Like, now it's to a point where if he gives you some innings, that feels like at least a wash. I don't know if it's a win.
Dude, give you
but a
innings.
wash.
What about being with the team?
That's what I'm saying. Like, fifth starter, plug-in innings. Like, would they take 50 innings from him right now? Like, if I said,
with what the sample size of what you just saw, how could he even be around? He went out there the third day or whatever it was and hit 3 guys and was giving off loud doubles, and now he can't get back on the mound.
No, he can't.
How is he going to give you any innings? Like,
that's
I
what
would
I'm
have
saying.
zero confidence in putting him on a major league bump right now.
I totally agree. And he won't be. He can't be. He cannot be a part of a major league rotation until he proves he can pitch. But the problem is spring training is coming and going. Major leaguers are back in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So the next time we see him pitch live action, it's likely against minor league players. And they got to figure out what the velocity looks like, how healthy he is, how his shoulder is. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I have reached a point where it feels far-fetched this guy gets his career back on path, which
That's
sucks.
what I was just thinking, Hayes. I don't know what the baseball, but you see guys where it's just like, they can't play anymore. And it's an awful thing because he's a young dude and he hasn't been around that long. And for him to get to this point so early is crazy to think about the drop. And I don't like seeing it. Nobody does. It's uncomfortable it's uncomfortable talking about
Exactly.
to think of where he was 2 or 3 years ago and to where he is right now. But it's kind of getting to the point where you're looking at him and you're like, I don't know if that guy can play baseball anymore. That's a scary comment to make.
What would you sign off on right now for Alek Manoah for the Blue Jays, like for this season?
You know what, Noodles? I'm only
like
signing off on him being a top pitcher in the big leagues again because anything else will just be a failure to him and the organization anyway. So there's no sense of settling for some garbage thing where it's like some innings here or there, like Hayes just mentioned. The only way he gets back is if he becomes a premier pitcher in the league again. That's back. Like, for him to just stumble and bumble around and a guy that's moving all over the place, that's not back.
No, it's not. I mean, we're completely rearranging how we would define this guy. Like, what?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is I have reached that point. The idea of him being an ace again seems impossible. Like, I can't get there mentally. Yet, this time last year, that's precisely where he was. That was the title he held.
Yeah.
Ace, horse, the man, buy his jersey, go see him every fifth day. This guy is amazing. And I love that story. I'm rooting for the guy. It'd be an amazing story. It would be, and you're right, it's uncomfortable to discuss this because this is his life. Like, this is his life. This is his career. But the truth of the matter is, it is a business. We've been talking about it. John Tortorella and Couturier, Keefe and Brody. This is a business, and the business decision is he's nowhere close to being a major league pitcher. And from that standpoint, I think the goalpost has moved so much that it's almost like, can he be a plug-and-play guy if you need him to?
Yeah.
And that seems ridiculous considering how high he reached already.
Dude.
That's the kind of title you would give a guy that's a journeyman in the minors.
And as athletes, you think down the road, and he probably was looking at Garrett Cole and that contract he signed with the New York Yankees. I think it was $345 million. And he probably thought, if I can just stay on this trajectory, I could be in line for that someday.
Yep.
Like, I'm a big dude, I'm a righty, I'm a fireballer, and I could be in line for that one day. And now he's fighting for his existence in the big leagues.
Exactly. And I guess that's where I'm at, where you take his name and his history out, or prior to last year's history. You just say that was a guy that really struggled, couldn't get on the mound. Now he couldn't get on the mound. The one time we saw him, it was really ugly, and now he's hurt, and his arm is not in a position to pitch. I think if you looked at that objectively, you'd say, I guess I'd sign off on, can he give us 3 or 4 starts on an injury basis where he plugs in because someone's hurt at a 5 ERA? That's how crazy it is. That's how much it's moved. And I don't know if you can even get to that point. Like you're saying, I don't know if you're Atkins and Shapiro and you can even see that, like in allow that to happen because of what he is and what he's been in the past. But I don't know if you can bank on much more right now. Like, I don't know how you can see this guy pitching 200 innings anytime soon as a stud pitcher. Like, I don't see how it's possible. And if you're the 6th or 7th or 8th man in terms of a depth chart, your reality is maybe 4 or 5 starts, maybe 10, 12, maybe 50 innings, mid-4 ERA if you're lucky.
It seems like the only way
life.
he would get it back and get back on top somehow is if he bumbles and stumbles a little bit and it goes to another team and then resurfaces. You've seen those stories of pitchers in baseball where it's like this guy pops up in another uniform and all of a sudden he's magic again.
That might be the play. I wouldn't be surprised if he's thinking that already. His reps are thinking that. And the Jays might be willing to concede that it's hit an impasse. It's not working out. It's not going to work out. Jays might have to cut bait because of the noise around Manoah. Like, it's a wild story. He's Alek Manoah. Whenever he's around, people are going to talk about him and ask about him. Mm-hmm. And it may be a scenario where the Jays, even for the betterment of the players, say, you know what, we'll let you go find whatever you can find. And, if he returns to form, yes, it would suck for the Jays and Blue Jay fans, but it'd be a great story for him. And, we'll see. But as of now, the spring has come and gone, effectively, for Alek Manoah. It came and gone, and nothing's changed. He's still not a part of the rotation. Bill Shakin in about 20 minutes on this Ohtani story. Bill's with the LA Times. We'll get his take on where this could go, his reaction to it, how he feels Ohtani can and will possibly handle this. And Darren Dreger still to come as well in about 45. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, so March Madness has officially begun, which means everyone's got a bracket. Everyone wants to explain why they're certain St. Peter's will beat Tennessee tonight, as if they have any idea what that means.
Did you say Shannon Sharp picked every first seed?
Yes, on the men's side and the women's side. Both
Does
brackets.
he not know? Like, even I know in this industry, you kind of got to bluff it a little bit and say, like if me and Noodles were doing this, we would say, maybe there's an upset there. We're not going 1-1-1-1 all the way through.
Right.
That's basically telling everyone you have no idea what the hell you're doing.
It would make more sense if you went
off the board
completely and said, like, here's 3 10 seeds, a 12 seed. You cannot go with the chalk across the board. Will there be 1 seeds? Of course. Like, very likely. It's not guaranteed, but very likely there will be 1, maybe 2. But 8 across the board on the men and women's side? Like, come on. You have to mix in a 2 or 3 seed.
That's just saying screw it, man.
That's exactly it.
Telling your assistant to fill it out for you.
Which I kind of appreciate. Because, again, I don't know anything about college basketball. The tournament's amazing. I'm fascinated by it. I love the energy that comes with it. But we all have so much on our plate, right? Like, this is predominantly like a Big Four show. It's hockey, football, baseball, basketball, some golf, whatever other big stories are going on. And if there's some massively compelling college basketball story, I happily get into that. We'll talk about it, of course we will.
The best of our ability.
To the best of our ability, exactly. But I don't know who's winning. Iowa State versus South Dakota State tonight. The hell do we know who's going to win that game?
I've never even heard of a couple of those universities.
There's a lot of them going on. You know what I just thought of, because Bolta sent me this the other day, and I don't know how I missed it. Did you see the pictures of Carolina, the Hurricanes were tweeting out of Seth Jarvis in the, I don't know if it's a third jersey.
It's the pig on the side of the arm.
The pig. Your pig is going to be on the jersey down in Carolina.
To my knowledge, that one might be just for sale in the store. I don't know if they're going to game with that. The pig logo and the C on the front.
I was shocked. I missed that. And again, Bolta sent it. I'm like, thank you. I got to ask.
The pig is dressed up like the Wolfpack, the NC State Wolfpack, by the way. Great job, Wolfpack, winning the ACC tournament. Very proud of you guys. Do some damage. But he's dressed up like the Wolfpack mask. This is ridiculous. He's a pig dressing like a wolf.
Yeah, and Seth Jarvis he's rocking the cargo pants. I don't know. Are we bringing those back? Are the cargo
they're
pants
back.
coming back?
I think the cargo bell-bottom pants are back.
It feels like they're coming back, man.
Everyone dig into your dad's stuff and pull out his cargo pants, because you might be rocking them, man.
Absolutely. Forget your dad. That was like our styles in the early 90s. Man, remember the grunge?
Dude, you're younger than me. I never went near a pair of cargos.
Oh, cargos
those were like
huge.
Those were repellent.
I'm not saying they were a good look, but they were big. Like when Pearl Jam was out, Eddie Vedder would rock cargos all the time. And I wrote a flannel shirt with a cargo all day. All day.
A pair of cargos and some Blundstones is absolute repellent.
Well, don't tell Seth Jarvis that, man. That kid's on fire right now too, man.
He's a great player, man.
He's a really good player.
He's the real deal. He's one of my favorite players in the league.
Really good player. Leaf fans, do yourself a favor. Do not look up whose pick that belonged to. Do not.
Is that Marlowe?
That's the Marlowe pick. Yep, that's Patrick Marlowe's pick. Was Seth Jarvis. Final hour coming up. Bill Shankin of the LA Times. Darren Dreger will join us. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.